What's going on, everybody? Today I'm going to make a video completely surrounding snow goose hunting, what we did this year, what we had success doing, what didn't work for us, and at the end of the video I'm going to talk about the decoys we got for sale. If you're someone who knows how to snow goose hunt, this video may not be of interest to you, but if you're someone that's trying to start or someone who just wants to learn more, I'm going to go over just the most basic questions a lot of people have and try to cover them in as much detail as I can to show you guys what snow goose hunting is like. I hope you guys enjoy this video. Let's sit down and start talking. All right, the first thing I want to cover, something I get a ton of questions about, is what shotgun I use. This is a Browning A5. I got this for Christmas and my birthday probably 5 years ago, and it's the only shotgun I've used since then. I love it. It's not the only shotgun that works. Bryce shoots a Remington 870 pump shotgun, and then T-Lane shoots a Winchester XX3. So we all three have different types of guns. They all work. Another thing that I have a lot of questions about is what this tube is here. During like regular duck and goose season, we're only allowed to have 3 total shots in our gun. But during snow goose conservation season, you can have as many as your gun can hold. So I have a tube extension here. That's what this thing is called, and I can hold 8 shells. So it makes snow goose hunting a lot of fun. You can shoot a lot, and you can definitely kill a few more with those extra shots. I also get a bunch of questions about what choke tube I use. I just use the improved modified choke that's already in my shotgun. Bryce has a extra full choke that he uses, and T-Lane uses a modified choke too. So we all 3 use different choke tubes. It's kind of just your preference. I prefer a little wider spread. Bryce is a pretty good shot, and he likes to poke out their way, so he uses the extra full choke. If you are a beginner and haven't waterfowl hunted much or haven't shot a shotgun much, I would suggest a pretty wide choke, a modified or improved modified. Now, if you're somebody who has a little more experience, which I'm sure you may already know this, a full or even an extra full choke that really tightens that pattern down and allows you to extend out a little further may be something that's more beneficial. All right, so that's the shotgun. Browning A5, tube extension, improved modified choke. What's up, Coda? Coda and my Count Ralphie are going to be in the video quite a bit. Another thing I get a ton of questions about are what shotgun shells we use. I have always been the type of guy that will shoot basically whatever I can get my hands on. I certainly think that more expensive shells do make some sort of difference, but I've never shot those super expensive shells, and what I shoot works. This year, the majority of us shot these Winchester 1 and 2s. We got them for free. A buddy of ours had them and just gave us a whole case. So we shot these for the majority of the season. We actually really liked them, and they worked well, and we got a whole nother case of them, so we'll probably shoot them next year. The more important thing besides just the brand is what shot size you're using. These are 1s and 2s. In the past, I've used BBs. I would not use anything much. They're taunting me. I would personally not use shot much larger than a 2. You certainly can kill them with 4s or 6s, but something that's a little heavier that carries a little more punch, like a BB or a 1 or a 2, is something I would definitely suggest. So those are the shotgun shells I use. Another thing that's going to make your life way more comfortable when you're snow goose hunting is what you're wearing. I almost always wear these white bibs. These are made by Grundon, but there's a bunch of companies that make them. I think they're actually made for marine purposes, like fishermen or people that butcher things or just messy jobs in general. They're made out of like this plasticky material. You can just power wash them off. The reason these are so good for snow goose season is it's constantly wet, it's often not super warm, and you're often laying in the mud. I just throw these over whatever I have on, and it keeps me completely dry. They're white, so if you ever get caught out of the layout blind or caught out of your panel, or you are laying in white, this works perfectly. And then at the end of the season, I can take them in my yard, power wash them off, and they're still in great shape. All right, I'm gonna get now more into the actual specifics of hunting. So you've got your clothes, you've got your shotgun, you've got your shotgun shells, you got basically everything you need to actually go out and hunt. Now I'm gonna talk about what's important while you hunt, what worked for us this year. This is certainly not the only way to do it. We are not that great at snow goose hunting. We have a couple good hunts a year, but we really enjoy it, and we have been doing it for the last 5 years, and there are definitely some things that we have found work better than others. Rule number 1, we do not lay in whites anymore. You certainly can, it certainly has its place, but we do not do it anymore. There's multiple reasons, but a few of the big ones is we felt like the birds were picking us out. So when you're laying in whites, you essentially lay in the decoys. There's decoy spread, you can have as many as you want, and you lay in a white suit and make yourself look like a pile of snow geese, I guess. 4 or 5 years ago, that tended to work great, and it seemed to be what a lot of guys are doing. There are certainly still a ton of people that are having success laying in white, but we have found the success to greatly diminish in the last few years. Especially if the juvie hatch isn't super great, you aren't necessarily able to fool those adults by laying in white. So we completely stopped doing that 2 years ago, and we've had a lot more success with that. There's a multitude of other ways to hide. I'm just going to talk about what we do to hide and what we did this year, but don't think this is the only way to do it. This year, we built a pit. If you don't know what a pit blind is, I'm going to link the video below. But essentially, it's an underground blind. It's completely flush with ground level. It's a giant space. You can eat down there. You can walk around down there. And then basically, you pop above the ground to shoot the birds when they come in. Unfortunately, we lost permission and had some trouble with the landowner, so we ended up having to move the spread, so we were not able to use the pit this year. However, I am pretty confident that if you are shooting migrating snow geese and you have the money to do it, a pit's the best way to do it. But I know a lot of people don't have the money to sink into that. Altogether, that probably cost us $3,500. It was super expensive, and it's something that a lot of people who just do this as a hobby don't have the means for. So when we ended up moving the spread, we just went with layout blind. We ended up being on the edge of a pasture pond, and layout blinds work perfectly. Everyone has a different brand of layout blind. You'll find that with all the guys I hunt with. Everybody's got their own way and what they think works. This is the layout blind I used. It's just a Cabela's low profile. There's a couple reasons I like it. It folds up super small, and it's super easy to film out of, so that's why I got it. It's got backpack straps, which a ton of layout blinds have now, but it's super handy for carrying stuff in, and that's just what I went with. I'll leave a link in the description below. This blind was super good, and I'll show you what our hide looked like on the edge of the pond. The reason we use layout blinds is we use those for Canada goose hunting, and we're able to hide those super well. We could hide 8 guys at a time on the edge of a pasture pond, and we had absolutely no problem hiding. I'll lay over some drone footage that Bryce shot of our spread. You can obviously see our heads poking out of the blinds, but besides that, I thought the blinds blended in really well and made it just look really natural. All right, this is probably my favorite thing to talk about from this year that we thought definitely helped our success, and that was the sound we were using. If you guys are unfamiliar, during snow goose season you can use an electronic collar. A lot of people call them an e-collar. That means that I have essentially a stereo box. There's wires that run out of this that we can hook speakers up to, and it plays a recorded track of snow geese. I want to interject here and just say I'm not sponsored by anything I'm talking about. These are just my experiences. These are the products I like, and I'm just trying to help you guys out. But we bought a Snows Down Low e-collar this year, and we were really happy with it. This was a little more expensive than the homemade ones that we had made in the past. You certainly can make the homemade ones work. They do work, but we're not as technologically savvy as some people, and we decided just to go with the Snows Down Low. This is the Overkill HD. I think this calls $750. It comes with 2 batteries and 4 speakers, and we loved it. A couple things about the sound, which you seasoned snow goose hunters will know, was it was really important to not have it too loud. There was a lot of times that we would get migrating snow geese down to 100 yards, and then they would buzz out. And it seemed like it was because of the loudness of our sound. So once we turned that sound down, or even having the ability to have that sound really loud when they're a long ways away, but turn it down as they came in, that really helped our success, and we were getting birds to land. So I would definitely suggest, if you are looking to get into snow goose hunting, I would pick up an e-collar. There's a lot of cheap options out there. None of them are necessarily better than the other ones, but this was just an easy way for us to get a high-end call, and it ended up working really well. But I would tell you, if you are having snow geese bug out, definitely suggest turn that sound down. You don't want the sound to sound louder than a real flock of geese. The other thing too is we were on the edge of a pasture pond. Snow geese are not going to make that much noise on the edge of a pasture pond. There's only 700-800 decoys out there, which I know sounds like a lot, but that amount of snow geese is not going to be super loud all the time. Another thing that we had a ton of success with this year, and I think helped us get birds a lot closer, at least get birds over the top of us, was we were all blowing mouth calls. There are a ton of mouth calls on the market. It's not necessarily super important that you get an expensive call. For those that are getting into it, you can get a snow goose call that sounds relatively like a snow goose for $20. So don't take this as you got to go out and buy all this stuff to have success. I am just telling you what we have found to work best. This year we were all blowing the Legendary Gear Snowfall, and it was awesome. I don't have any experience blowing a snow goose call. I've blown Canada goose calls, and all my buddies are pretty good callers, but we had not really gotten super into snow goose calling, and Legendary Gear was nice enough to send us 3 of these, and you can blow them right off the bat. This is what we were doing in the blind. We were just barking. And having those extra barks above the just monotone e-collar really seemed to help. You could tell, especially when the birds went out to swing and we would hit this really hard, the birds would come back, come right over us, and it just seemed to work well. Having 3 of these in a snow goose spread really spreads that sound out. You can direct your sound towards the birds, and you can get on them real loud when they're turning, and it seemed to make a lot of difference. So this is the Legendary Gear Snowfall. There are a lot of calls out there that work, but this one was super easy to blow, and like I said, doesn't take a whole lot of skill to just sound like a snow goose. I'm now going to just talk about our decoy spread, our setup, and what we're going to change for next year to hopefully make it work a little bit better. All right, this is something that a lot of people ask us about. That's what type of decoys we use. We have 2 main types of decoys. We've got shells, and most of them are GHG 5/8 shells, and then we have full bodies. I'll throw some drone footage of what the spread looked like with these full bodies and these shells. We also moved to a pond this year, so we had quite a few floaters. So all in all, we have 3 different types of decoys. There also are silo socks, which are a lot cheaper. They move pretty well in the wind. They were really popular probably 5 years ago. They still are pretty popular. They certainly work. They're a great way to get into snow goose hunting. If you're chasing feeds, or if you don't have a ton of money, this isn't something that you really want to do, but it's something you want to do a couple times a year, I would suggest picking yourself up some silo socks. You can get them for $20, $30 a dozen. Especially the used ones are pretty reasonable. They seem like they're constantly for sale, and you can amass a lot of decoys pretty quickly if you've got some buddies that are interested. I'm going to talk about full bodies, and if you are interested or have questions about silo socks, we still have some. So leave a question in the comment below or DM me on Instagram, and I'd be more than willing to answer any questions you have about them. As far as why we use full bodies and shells, there's a couple reasons. The main reason is there are not that many people that use full bodies. There certainly are some people that do. I would say the majority of snow goose hunters have 100 dozen socks. So they've got 1,200 socks, and all their buddies are pitched in on it, and that's great. It's super easy to set up, super easy to take down, but we wanted to have a spread that kind of stood out from everything else and seemed a little more realistic, at least in our eyes. So these are the shells we use, and these are the shells that are going to go for sale. We have 45 dozen of these, and we have 55 dozen full bodies. So we have 1,200 hard body decoys. A lot of people have asked how we got into it and how we bought them. Bryce, me, and T-Lane, who are the ones that own the majority of the decoys, started buying these when we were 16 and 17, and we would just throw $1,000 a piece at it a year. We'd save up money every single year. We'd find something on Facebook, and we'd drive all over God's green earth to pick up another 10 dozen decoys. It took 3 or 4 years to build the spread to where we are now, and we're going to continue to build it. We would ultimately like to get to the point where we've got 500 or 600 floaters and a couple thousand full bodies. So we're still throwing money at it. All together, we probably have $15,000 or $20,000 in decoys, and I understand that is a ton of money. If you want to get into snow goose hunting cheap, buy silo socks. They still work, but we just feel like the full bodies work better. The main full body we use are Dakotas. We also have GHGs, we also have Tangle Free, we also have some hardcore, we also have chicken down decoys. I mean, we have all different types of decoys. They were essentially what decoys we could get at the cheapest price and build our snow goose spread. So that's how much money we've got wrapped up in it. I know it's a lot, but you can get into snow goose hunting for pretty cheap if you buy silo socks or run a smaller spread. You don't need 1,000 decoys to kill snow geese. We have an older buddy that has 70 full bodies, so essentially 5-6 dozen full bodies, and he had some awesome days this year. You can do it with a smaller spread. I'm going to show you guys how we had the decoys set up with the drone footage. There was no real pattern. We certainly were not trying to think about how geese would work the spread. We did move some decoys around after we had geese work into the spread. But the main thing I want to talk about as far as the spread goes, and something we still don't do a great job about, is decoy spacing. If you ever look at snow geese in a feed or on a pond or anywhere, they're not evenly spaced out. They are really tight in one area and then super loose. There might be a hole here. There might be 500 geese in a super small area and then 500 geese just strung out everywhere. What I would suggest is when you're setting your spread, make sure that the decoys are not evenly spaced. I've heard time and time again people that fly drones or people that are pilots flying over decoy spreads and instantly realizing they're not real snow geese because every decoy is 2 steps away. So vary the spacing between your decoys, and I think that will really help. I've got a couple more points I want to cover. I'm sure you guys have a ton of questions, so leave those in the comments. I really want to get into making these types of videos to help people that have never done this before. So leave your questions in the comments below. I've got a couple commonly asked questions from viewers, and then we're going to wrap this video up. And if you guys have a ton more questions, then we'll just make a video for next week. Austin Kindheart is wondering what my tips are for beginners. The biggest tip I would say to get your foot in the door or start snow goose hunting is to try to find somebody who already snow goose hunts. This is the easiest way to get into it, learn about it before you invest a bunch of money into it. That's how I got started. I started hunting with T Lane 5-6 years ago. He already knew how to do it. His dad was a really good hunter, and that's how I started. I just rode along with them. I went for the hunt. I had a good attitude. I offered to pay for gas. I offered to pay for their meal, and I learned how to do it, and slowly we became friends, and now we live together and hunt together all the time. So if you are new to it, try to find somebody that already does it and join them a couple times and learn more about it. The next question I have is how much does it cost to get into goose hunting? This is a question that's difficult for me because there's a wide range of money that can work. You can do this really cheap. Like I said, you can go with somebody who already goes. You can find somebody that has old decoys that they're selling for cheap. That's how we started. We started with 500 Texas rags we bought for $300, and that was our first snow goose spread. So you can get into this super cheap if you want to. If you end up deciding you like it, that's when I would spend the money. Don't go out and spend $5,000 on snow goose hunting right now, because I promise you it's going to kick your butt more than you're going to have success doing it. All right, Nate Gravel asked, is snow goose hunting your favorite type of waterfowl hunting? And that's hands down absolutely yes. I love snow goose hunting. I love the challenge. I have a love-hate relationship with them. They are extremely tough. They're extremely smart, but I love snow goose hunting. I love the work involved. I love that we have a spot to go every single day we want to. And yeah, it's my favorite thing to do. I don't necessarily know why. I don't think very many people share my opinions of it, but I love snow goose hunting. Trailhead to Toe asks, how do you know when and where the snow geese will show up? That's always been an issue for me. That's always an issue for everybody. We hunt migrating snow geese. Most years, as soon as the ponds thaw, the snow geese start arriving. I'm in northern Missouri, so it's usually anywhere from February 10th to March 10th. So that's a very wide range. What I would suggest is when you start seeing the ponds not have ice on them, there's going to be snow geese soon to follow. Snow geese will push cold as long as they've got open water. So as soon as there's open water, there should be snow geese. Obviously, there's probably a ton more questions regarding snow goose hunting. There's probably some really simple things that I missed. If you guys have questions, please leave them in the comments below, and I will try to answer them next week or the following week. I want to make these videos to help you guys out. I just want to say one more time, me, T-Lane, Bryce, we don't know everything. We're not that great at snow goose hunters. We go a lot. We love it, but we do not know everything. We are constantly talking to people, constantly watching other people's videos to learn how they do it. So find what works best for you, find what works best for your budget, and get into it, guys. I can promise you snow goose hunting is a ton of fun. All right, lastly, guys, I just wanted to say we are going to be selling the majority of our shells and switching all the full bodies. That really has nothing to do with the quality of the shells. It's just that we like full bodies, and we've got enough money now, and hopefully by next year we can buy a lot of full bodies. So we want to switch from using these shells to using full bodies. These shells are way cheaper than full bodies, and in my experience, I think they work just as well. So we have 45 dozen GHG 5/8 shells, and we've got a bunch of miscellaneous shells. We are offering these for sale for $110 a dozen. They have the motion cones with them, and we have stakes that go with them. So these have been in our spread the last 2 years. The majority we bought used off of a guy that had used them 2 years. So the majority of them are 4 years old. They're in really good shape for being that old. There are a couple missing cones and there are a couple missing heads. If you guys are interested in purchasing these or have questions about them, check the link in the description below. Either email me at gucciTV@gmail.com or DM me on Instagram, or you can find me on Facebook and message me at Ethan Gooch. So there's 3 ways to contact me. If you guys are interested or have more questions about those, again, we have 45 dozen GHG shells that we are selling for $110 a dozen. If somebody shows up and wants all 45 dozen, we would lower the price to $100 a dozen. So if you guys are interested, find a link in the description below to message me, and look forward to hearing from you. I just wanted to interject here. We've got 2 more snow goose hunts coming your guys' way. So those will probably be up next week, and they're awesome hunts. So thanks for watching these videos. Like I said, if you have more questions, leave them in the comments below. If you aren't subscribed, it really, really helps me out when you guys do subscribe. Share the video with somebody who might be interested in getting into snow goose hunting. And as always, have a good day, and we'll see you on the next one.